First thing I'll do is attach a bat, a wooden piece of wood to the wheel head, which is what we throw the mugs on, the pots on, so that they're easy to take off the wheel head without distorting. And we start by pre-measuring the clay. This is 800 grams, which is about the right for a mug this size. And slam the clay down onto the wheel head. That's actually where the term throwing a pot comes from, because the first step is to throw the clay on the wheel. Now I'm coning the clay. I'm pushing in at the base, which forces it up, and then I'll compress it back down. I'll do that several times, and it forces the any air pockets that are trapped in the clay, it forces them out. It's easier to throw the pot without air pockets in the clay. And then I'll center the clay, just make certain that it's directly centered in the wheel, and make the initial opening, leaving a little bit of clay at the bottom, of course, for the bottom of the mug. And because clay tends to want to spread out centrifugal force, I'll continue to neck it in. And now I'll do a couple of pulls of bringing the clay up into a cylinder. Again, necking it in so it doesn't spread. And in this process, I have one hand in the clay, in the pot, and the other outside, and I'm essentially pinching between the two hands and just pulling the cylinder up. So I'll make two pulls like that, just getting basic height out of the mug, but keeping it in the cylinder, not introducing the form at this point. And now I'll pull in the pointer that tells me where the shoulder of the pot should be, much like these mugs over here. So this is the final pull, and I'll start to give it some profile and flare it out, define the shoulder of the pot, and then begin to compress the upper part. And now you'll notice on the outside of the pot there's a number of lines that have been left by my fingers as I'm pulling the clay up. So I'll take this piece of metal called a rib, and with one hand inside I'll push against the rib on the outside and just rib off or smooth off the throwing lines and clean up the profile a little bit, give it a nicer definition out to the flare. I prefer a smooth-sided pot. The glazes we use tend to look better on a smooth-walled pot. Now the tricky part is in closing in the mug, and just before I do that, I'll use this little sponge on a stick and take out the water that is in the mug before I close it over. If I leave water in there, it could open up a crack as the pot sits drying. Now closing in is a little fiddly. The clay doesn't really like to bend at angles. It doesn't have a lot of horizontal strength, so you have to be really delicate on this stage. The clay has a lot of vertical strength, but once you start moving it horizontally, it wants to fall down. And I'll slowly compress and get that opening about the right diameter. Now I'm just going to smooth the edge, the surface again with the rib, and then literally push the top in with the rib. Just let it fold in, and I'm supporting that inside with one of my fingers. Clean up the profile, and then just again a little cleaning action with the sponge to take any rough edges off. A final trimming of the base of the pot. I like to make sure the base is undercut a little bit. It gives a bit of a lift to the pot visually when you're looking at the finished piece. It brings it up off the surface that it's on. So I'm just tidying the bottom a little bit. And now I'll take the pot off using the bat, and that's the process for throwing a travel mug.